This is Hidden Killers with Tony Bruschi.
A 17-year-old kid from Fall River, Massachusetts is now sitting in jail after allegedly shooting and killing his own brother during an argument. You know, like you do when you have easy access to a firearm at the age of 17. Having that locked away wouldn't have done anything. Having easy access to that wouldn't change anything. No. We're not talking about a minor scuffle over borrowed clothes or who gets the last slice of pizza. The fight ended with a bullet. The suspect, Jaylen Lambert, and his 20-year-old brother, Jaleale Simmons, apparently got into it on Saturday afternoon at their home on Rodman Street there. And now sibling fights are obviously nothing new. Everyone who grew up with a brother knows that they can get heated. But in this case, one moment they were arguing, the next one of them was dead. According to prosecutors, things started off as a physical fight, just your typical brotherly scrap, but with some serious tension. Their mother tried to break it up, pushing Simmons into a bedroom to cool things down, and for a second it looked like maybe that it was. Lambert left the house, and you'd think, that was the end of it. Cooler minds prevailed. Except it wasn't. Because a short time later, Lambert came back, but this time he wasn't empty-handed. One shot, one life, gone. So when Lambert returned, prosecutors say he was carrying a gun with an extended magazine. Like you need when you walk into your home and your brother's there after arguing. You need a weapon of war. And instead of another shouting match or another shove, this time he pulled the trigger. A single shot straight to his brother's chest. Think about that one for a second. This wasn't some wild shootout or a spur-of-the-moment reaction in a struggle where he grabbed a gun and shot him. This was a deliberate aim to kill.
He went and got the gun.
Went and got a gun. By the time the Fall River police arrived, Simmons was barely clinging to life. First responders rushed him to the hospital, but it was too late. He was pronounced dead not long after. And just like that, one brother was gone forever and the other was facing a murder charge. Fast forward to Lambert's arraignment, and the scene was complicated. He stood there, shaking his head as prosecutors laid out their version of events. Shake your head like, was it frustration or was it, no, you're wrong. Meanwhile, his supporters in the courtroom were shouting encouragement, things like, we love you. It's all right. Like you do to the guy who shoots his brother. If I was facing a murder charge, I'd probably want to hear something a little, stronger than, it's all right.
It's going to be okay, honey.
It's not going to be okay, honey.
Never going to be okay again. You killed your brother.
Still, it speaks to how tight-knit the family is. Even after something this tragic, they lost a son, and now they're watching another one face a possible life sentence.
They're going to lose another son.
That's not a normal way of thinking.
And to me, when the fight, I can't imagine the mother being in the middle of this. And my guess is maybe these two brothers fought frequently. I don't know. But the fact that they're in this fight and the mom's in the middle of it, making him cool down. But he left. He knew there was a gun someplace. I can't figure out where he got the gun. I haven't been able to find that anywhere. But he had access to one.
Yeah.
And he left and was back within 2 minutes. It was really fast.
So he
came back, killed his brother.
I don't think I would be sitting there it'll be okay.
And this kid who killed him.
You're you're not my son anymore.
He was a basketball player. I think this kid had a potential decent future, and I don't know that he's a murderer. They got in a fight and he lost control of his temper, but became a murderer. It was that's what he did to his own brother. Yeah. Instead of just walking out of the house and saying, you know what, I'm going to walk around the block, 2 blocks, whatever, calm down. He went and got a gun. I just don't get that. And this kid could have had a decent future, maybe. I don't know.
Maybe.
But at this point, he's going to end up going to jail.
Lambert's charged with murder along with possession of a large capacity firearm and possession of a firearm without a permit. And before anyone asks, no, he's not getting tried as a juvenile. Massachusetts, it's pretty clear on this one, thank God. If you're 16 or older and charged with first degree or second degree murder, you're tried as an adult, no exceptions. His defense attorney, Frank D. Camera, isn't thrilled about that. He's arguing that Lambert is being overcharged. This case is more like manslaughter than murder. Where are we where we can just rewrite history and we can rewrite how things go down when it's convenient for us, and everyone should just go along with it? Because it happens too often and people go along with it. That's why people think that they can do this now and just manslaughter. No, he came back with a gun and shot him.
That was his intention. Like, he walked away knowing where he was going, wherever this gun was, and got the gun and came back and shot his brother.
He didn't come back with a super soaker, and the super soaker somehow could fire bullets. It's like, oh my God, the super soaker is a real gun. No, he got a real gun with an extended magazine and shot his brother. It's not manslaughter. That's first degree murder. Where does a
17-year-old get the gun?
Yeah, well, that's the other
And
problem.
had the gun not been accessible to him, would his brother still be alive?
He says
maybe he'd have gotten a knife. Maybe he'd have done something else. I don't know. But it's pretty easy with a gun.
He says he's going to dig deeper into what led up to the shooting, and also pointed out that the brothers had a history of arguing. And give me a pair of brothers that don't. What's the history leading? I don't know. Nothing that should lead up to him killing him. I mean, the story better be that the brother was about to plan a mass murder, and he was about to go out and do that, and the only thing I could do was stop him by killing him. And clearly this is not that.
Right.
For now, Lambert isn't going anywhere. He's being held without bail at the Bristol County Jail at the Bristol. His next court date is April 25th, when they'll hold a probable cause hearing to decide whether this thing is heading to trial. It obviously didn't have to happen by any means. But
and
what was the fight about?
You're
Why?
really angry. And when you're 17, it's hard to control your anger. You know, if he's used to fighting with his brother, get all that stuff. But the fact that his solution was to go find a gun and come back and shoot his own brother and kill him isn't very rational.
No.
And I do feel bad for the family. They've lost 2 kids in this. You know, this is heartbreaking all the way around. And he might have been a really good kid who just lost control. Just maybe his brother had been pushing him and he lost control. I don't know. But he killed his brother.
The thing is, if you lose control and you don't have access to a weapon, usually no one dies.
Yeah.
That's the part there.
Come back with a knife. I don't know. But he had access to a gun. And he shouldn't have had access to a gun. At 17 years old, can you legally own one? And this was... He said he's in possession of a firearm without a firearm identification card. So this is not...
He's illegally in possession of it's illegal possession of a firearm is what it is.
Yeah. And he's 17. Where did it come from? And if it's his gun, why does this kid at 17 think he needs a gun?
Well, it's not his gun. Where did he get it? Is it someone else's gun? Did he get it illegally? Did he get it? Is it even registered? Is he, get it on the streets? All of that. Is it a family weapon that was somewhere else that he got? Who knows? But he had access to one. And he had such a lack of coping skills that the solution to this problem was to go and get a gun and shoot his brother. Again, I mean, if we ultimately get back to everything here, because it's like, well, the gun's the problem. Bad parents. All of that leads into, and I think ultimately of parenting, but lack of coping skills.
Yeah.
We have such a young generation that has 0 coping skills. And it's kind of surprising too, honestly. And I think it varies dramatically from one small age group to another. I feel like the generation gap and differences between just small groups of kids is huge. It's not a slow progression anymore. It's like total different ways of thinking by just 5 to 10 years of span. And I think that's because our society has changed so dramatically. I think there are some groups within there that actually do have pretty good coping skills because they've gone through some pretty traumatic issues in our world over the last 10 years that have had to roll with the punches and kind of deal with reality in different ways. I think a lot of the kids who went through COVID and were out of school and had to deal with different things and dealt with it healthily and got through it and then were able to kind of bounce around and be in different scenarios and situations. I think those kids have some pretty good coping skills. And they developed them at a very young age. I think some of the kids who were maybe a bit older do not, and that kind of threw a lot for a loop. And then I think you have some that, again, don't really have recollection of much of this and zero. It's such a crapshoot for the type of people. It's not a wide net anymore where it's like, okay, demographically, this large 75% chunk is going to likely kind of be like this. Everything is so segregated or so like, okay, this 5%'s like this, that 10's like that 15's like this, that 20's like that 12 is like this. And it's all these different ways of thinking. And it's so enmeshed together in weird, unhealthy ways that it's so impossible to deal with this problem. Mm-hmm. Especially when you have such inconsistent parenting from one home to another. But at the end of the day, this is what you get. And it's where we're at.
It is tragic for their family.
It is. But I can't, I've never been in this situation. But I don't know. I think it may say a lot about coping skills. Or the lack of coping skills that this kid had. Yeah. When you have parents cheering him on in a courtroom after he just killed his brother. I think that may be a little bit on the, I'm going to guess it might have been on the heavier end of you can do no wrong, Skippy. And it's still progressing in court when he's in there for killing his brother. And when you don't have those coping skills, a gun it's not out of the question.
Yeah, I can't imagine being in that situation, being like, it's going to be all right, honey, because you're missing a son. Like that kid just killed the other kid.
I would not be above disowning a child for that and don't care. Like, okay, it'd be more painful for me to continue forward with any sort of relationship with you. And I really don't give a fuck anymore about your feelings after you have done that to your own sibling and another person that is that close to me. You're dead to me too. You just destroyed that. And I would rather cope with that than pretend that this person over here is still existing, even if they are. Because what good does that do?
Because I can't imagine how that argument was so bad that the only thing he could think to do was to go get a gun.
Yeah, again.
What the hell were they arguing over?
We work with the tools that we are given in our minds, and if they're not very good tools, you get shitty outcomes. Mm-hmm.
The latest true crime stories, expert breakdowns, and shocking twists, all in one place. Press subscribe now to the Hidden Killers podcast and True Crime Today.